Guy, there's a very famous saying that if we keep doing the same things, we shouldn't be surprised if we see the same results. That couldn't be true of wall wash testing, could it?
Absolutely. The wall wash has been an integral part of our business now for probably 50 years, and we've become comfortable with the results that it generates. This reassurance, if you like, is driving us to actually make the test even stricter. To protect the quality of the cargoes. We understand that cargoes are being shipped to higher levels of specifications and receivers demand higher quality, but actually the wall wash inspection doesn't guarantee that we can load these cargoes successfully. The majority of claims come from other sources that are not directly attributable to a wall wash inspection. So even though we've used it for so many years, doesn't make it right and doesn't mean that we have to keep using it in the future.
We had a very emotive, perhaps, presentation about the Bunga Alpinia incident. What for you were the key takeaways from that one?
I think the main issue was the fact that the explosion was caused. It was unnecessary. The vessel was loading a flammable cargo, methanol. There was a freak thunderstorm that nobody could have foreseen. But the fact is that the vessel was loading a flammable cargo. The flammable vapor was coming out of the pressure release system on board the vessel, and it was ignited because there was no means of preventing that flammable vapor from escaping. In the future, certainly we can prevent that by inerting cargo tanks prior to loading these flammable cargoes, regardless of whether it's a chemical or an oil product. The rules are vague, but for the intent of what we have to talk about is that flammable is flammable regardless of what the cargo is.
There's quite some discussion around nitrogen versus IGS.
Yeah, again, nitrogen is obviously an inert gas of a different form. It's pure, 99.9% pure, colourless, no smell, nothing. Inert gas is derived from diesel. When you burn diesel, the fumes that are emitted are the inert gas. These fumes contain particulates, they are discoloured, they are inherently acidic, and they can damage the quality of a chemical cargo, whereas nitrogen will not. Historically, inert gas systems have been fuel-driven, they've been diesel-driven, which means that the chemical industry has never accepted inerting as an integral part of the process because of the contamination risk. Now we have nitrogen as a far more viable alternative, and I think the future for chemical tankers now from new build is that they have nitrogen plants rather than inert gas plants. So this issue of inerting and the damage potential to the cargo disappears, and the safety improves all around.
There was some discussion around regulation and also the 8,000 deadweight ton cutoff.
Yeah, the rules prior to January the 1st, 2016 were that all vessels greater than 20,000 deadweight mandatorily have to be inerted prior to loading flammable cargoes. This has now been reduced down to 8,000 tons. For me, it's progress. I mean, I'm not sure of where this number comes from, but it's progress because it means that more vessels are now, they have to inert prior to loading flammable cargoes, and that will reduce the risk of explosions.
There's a very interesting discussion between you and Mark on the interplay between coating, inerting, and tank cleaning.
Yeah, this is, again, as we briefly mentioned on the wall wash, the wall wash inspection has been there for a long time, and we recognise that to achieve a certain standard means that the tanks are perceived as clean. But actually what we realise now is that when the cargo tank coating or lining is visually clean, that generally is sufficient to allow us to load pretty much any chemical cargo. We understand a lot more about coatings and how they perform, and whilst it's recognised that certain cargoes are absorbed into the paint film, the fact is they are only absorbed into the very outer surface layer, and that actually represents a very, very small risk of contamination. Yes, there is still a risk, but understanding that it's only a very slight risk helps us to move forward. And as an aside, a wall wash inspection would never pick up this kind of trace level of contamination anyway, so passing the wall wash wouldn't guarantee that you could load successfully.
While there are grounds for optimism that safety will improve, do you think that in truth another Bunga Alpinia is inevitable?
Sadly, yes. Until we have the rules that came in on January 1st, 2016, relate to the mandatory inerting during discharge. I think there is a certainly strong feeling from the customers that I talk to on a daily basis that they would like these rules extended to inerting prior to loading. We discussed today that the reason why that doesn't happen routinely is because of commercial pressure. The cargo tanks need to be inspected before we load, and then they have to be inerted, which can take anything up to 36 hours. Nobody is prepared to pay for that time loss and also the supply of the nitrogen. If the vessel is not equipped with a nitrogen plant, they have to take nitrogen from the shore. But it's a cost, and it still takes time. So sadly, until the rules include inerting prior to loading, then yes, I think another Bunga Alpinia may happen.
You were very bullish on the potential of drone technology in this area.
Yeah, I believe that drone technology is the future. I mean, one of the drivers for eliminating the wall wash, or looking at eliminating the wall wash, is to take men out of the cargo tanks. Confined space entry is recognised as being one of the most hazardous aspects of chemical tanker operation, yet it's routinely carried out because every time we carry out an inspection, we have to put men inside the cargo tanks. Drone technology at the moment appears to be limited to inspection. We have high quality cameras attached to drones that can take pictures, that give class and other inspectors information that they wouldn't otherwise get. But by adapting this technology and implementing new laboratory analytical instrumentation, we may be able to combine both together, where we can get information from the surface of the coating that we wouldn't otherwise have without putting men inside the cargo tank. So for me, I think that's a very positive step.
And finally, Guy, how have you found today's conference?
Excellent. I think this is the first one I've been to, and I've actually been surprised. Maybe that's unfair, but I have been really, really enthused by the amount of questioning, the extent of the questions, the knowledge behind the questions. This is clearly a forum that the industry can use to discuss issues like this and hopefully make rule changes in the future that will benefit us all.